How's it going, everyone? It is Monday, November 18th, 2024. No video on Friday. Sorry about that. Had a pretty busy day on Friday. I was going to record, and I did record a long video on Saturday, but some of the audio file got corrupted at the end. So I need to see if that is viable or not viable. But we're going to do a normal video today. And let's just go over what we took last video, which was the AMAT time spread. So we took those 185 time spread. AMAT ended up exceeding the earnings on Friday. So opened pretty low and had a chance to kind of come back into the range over here, but got rejected. It looks like it hit some resistance at this prior support level over here back in September. That ended up becoming resistance. And then stock kind of drifted down lower and compressed and died for the rest of the day. So took about an 80% loss on the time spread. Again, if you're not willing to take 100% loss in these time spreads, then don't put them on, right? That's just a scenario that can happen. You got to be sized for that. So that is AMAT was a loss, but I thought it was a good setup. Just didn't pan out that time, and that happens. So some of the positions that we are in. We have the cart time spread that's open. That's probably going to be a loss as well. The short calls expired worthless. I'm just in the long calls this week. They're probably not getting back to 48. And if anything, cart looks pretty good for a for a short setting up over here. Other pick we are in is Team. Team is also holding up pretty decently here on that 8 EMA, pulling back a little bit, not doing too much. Same thing with Amazon. It tested that support at 200. And looks like it's going to be testing that again today. Amazon, you can see, is testing that $200 support from the breakout level. Had a pretty decent sell-off on the prior day. So I'm still willing to take some heat on it. If it breaks below that $200 support, I'm going to be a little bit more cautious of the position. I'm looking to take then a better exit on the break. So still good with Amazon over here. And we have Reddit. So Reddit is holding it pretty decently here. It's kind of flatlining while the market has pulled back a little bit these last couple days. It's a pretty big selling. Reddit didn't sell off as much, so it tells me that there is some support forming. Now, for all of these, there's kind of one main criteria that I have, or I guess two main criteria. First is that, look, we made a pretty big move in the market, and usually you can see in the chart, right? After we make a pretty big move, we usually stall for a week or 2 weeks. So that's why when this move started to stall here, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to wait this rest of the week out, probably the next week here. If it's all is good, then we might see some bids start to form over time, and hopefully we can get something at the end of this week. That's kind of what I'm counting on. But right now is not the time. It's time to kind of play passive, right? Where we have this kind of turn down, so we need to sort of see that turn back up, and that's going to just take a couple of days. So I'm seeing which stocks are kind of holding up pretty well on this turn down, and then I can kind of enter up in that next cycle when the market is on all systems go. Now, you can see Reddit's holding up pretty well, and again, I've sized it to hit, try to find support of that AVWAP E. We also have a bit of an upward sloping channel right over here, so finding some support, as well as there's the 8 EMA. So a couple of different areas of support on that stock. Now, let's get a look into the market analysis for the day. Now, nothing has changed too much in terms of the outlook for the market from Friday. Again, I'm mildly bearish right now. We've hit some resistance. Now, the break and close below the 11.6 AVWAP right over here on the 14th, that told us to be pretty cautious. Now, we had some follow through selling over here, testing the gap. We still could see some more selling. We haven't seen any sort of tall bounce. So I think a good case scenario is that if we find support here, I think that'd be pretty bullish. If we find some support down over here, that would still be a pretty normal pullback. And we can add to our positions at a nice price over here. Now, don't have a lot of news. The only thing really coming up this week is NVIDIA earnings on Wednesday, on the 20th. I believe that's after the close. And then we're rolling through retail sales. So that's pretty much it. Then we have Thanksgiving weekend. It'll be some low activity trading. And then I think we'll get that next spike in the beginning of December with the unemployment report and some of those economic releases at the beginning of the month. So, and also some end of month fund buying and balancing. So, still bullish for the rest of the year. I still think that we have a chance to break above 600. So that is kind of what I'm watching for. Now, in terms of some scenario planning, fundamentally our bias hasn't changed. Technically, our bias hasn't changed. Now, where it would change is if we get a pretty big reversal where we actually break through this prior low. If we get a strong move down here, that would have us far more neutral on a longer term basis. Now, if we get a lower high in the next bounce, I'm going to be a little bit more bullish until we can actually break out of the 600 range. Now, short-term technical is what changes quite a bit. Now, hold that 11.6 gap. That's what I thought we would have over here. So far, I still think we're going to do that. Now, we could fill the gap. We could test a VWAP. And I think by the time that happens, we'll probably line up with the 50 SMA. So somewhere around here, I think that's still pretty likely. I put it as a 30% chance right now. I like this green day here. Now, if we can't get above it in the next day, then this probability is going to increase. This probability is going to go down. And we're still in this phase, right? Market's going to pull back and press for the next couple of weeks. So that is kind of our bias here. Now, if we start to fill in the gap, I think it'll be a little bit more bullish, probably a little more bearish for a day or two. Might be able to get a nice bear trend day where we can take some day trade shorts. 5% chance of us breaking through this upward sloping bull channel and through the 50. Now, it would still be, that'll still be pretty bearish shorter term, but as long as we preserve this higher low, then, or sorry, this higher low, then that tells us that the bull trend is still intact. If we start to break through that low, then we're going to be a little more careful. All right, so that's our game plan for swing trades, right? We're still being passive, prepared to be passive this entire week. I'm not going to give a lot of swing trading picks, maybe some day trading picks or some time spreads, maybe an overnight short, but nothing really that crazy. I'm erring on the side of not trading. I think if you're a beginner or in I'd say like a intermediate, not intermediate advanced. I think if you're intermediate advanced, you can get away with some stuff. But if you're a beginner or intermediate, I think it's really the time to just lay low, right? If you're a pro, you have some more opportunities you can take advantage of. But in the beginner, there's less of those meat and potato trades. You gotta really build that foundation of meat and potato trades before you add a little bit of spice to the mix. Now, short-term market bias, again, we're still -1. We had the gap and go bear trend day yesterday. Today we had a flat open. Let's zoom into the market on an M5 basis. We had this flat open, and then we started to grind up higher. So this is pretty nice, but look, we had a pretty big day of selling pressure. We know the sellers are going to take their shot, and it's likely that after a day like this, we'll probably see a lower high. Best case scenario, we do get a test and a pretty decent reversal, but it's probably going to take a lower high, and then we get another shot down, and then we get another shot up. So it's going to take some while for this pattern to kind of play out for swing traders, ideally. And we really have to preserve this low. So we're probably going to revisit some of these lows one more time. But I think this is just a good time to, again, be pretty passive. So it's nice and bullish going on. The volume is decently light, but there's some nice little steady light volume candle buying. Big bearish hammer. Okay, heavy volume. So that's a pretty big warning sign. And given that we have the selling pressure, this is a sign to get out. Now, if we had a really strong trend coming up, then we wouldn't get out immediately, but we would be a little bit cautious. So this bullish hammer is recontextualized by what came before it, which is steady selling pressure, decent bounce, right? It's an okay bounce, not the worst bounce, not the best bounce. It's okay. Buy signal here, so not bad. But we know that sellers are lurking, so we got to kind of be really nimble with trading on the long side here and a little more sticky on the short side on a shorter term basis. On a longer term basis, it's flipped where you want to be a little more nimble on the short side swing trading, a little bit more sticky on the long side swing trading. So now market is pulling back, compressed for a while, really light volume compression. Looks like interesting. Yeah, this is a high volume doji. Couldn't get anything going on that candle. Compressed for a while, broke through VWAP, pulled back over here. So a little bit choppy intraday. Not crazy about taking anything over here. Very slow day, and I put that as my most likely scenario in the high here, where we get this inside LPT day. Maybe we test the gap, but there's a strong rejection, and there's not enough time in the day to absorb that selling pressure. So it's like something like mildly bullish, maybe mildly bearish, fairly neutral. And then also this is the last scenario here, which I thought it was 20% chance of happening, where we get some rejection over here, and then we get a move that will move all the way down to the low of the day and breakthrough. So I didn't think that was super likely, but it really depends on that selling pressure. I think if we saw something like one lower high here, double top, and then stacked red candles, right, that's sort of the pattern that you would see. I don't think it's super likely again because there's a ton of support over here. I think if we broke through that support and then saw that, then we'd see that flip for sideline bears and sideline cash to join in that move, and buyers to flip from bearish to bullish and change that support into resistance. So I don't really have any strong recommendations today. I'll flip through a couple of picks that are looking decent today, and we'll take a look at some of these charts. So some financial stocks are looking good. The thing is that we just don't have the market tailwind, so you don't really have to rush to trade these. Like, they're even on the breakouts, they're going to pull back because you don't have the market tailwind in your favor. So Hood is a nice breakout. MSTR pulling back here. That's a nice little breakout. Let me check the alerts on this. I'm going to reset that. Yeah, so on the next, probably on the next buy signal, I might buy a shorter term move on MSTR. These buy signals have worked pretty well. So I'm going to wait for that. AFRM, nice financials stock here, breaking out. Now it's holding this breakout pretty well. You can see how it's a choppy stock. It may be starting to change its pattern. There's a pretty big horizontal resistance that it broke through, came back, tested it. Now we're getting off to the races. So here's your support, $10 to support. So you got to size it pretty well. I like how it's flagging decently well over here on the day. I've reset the alert for the buy signal. So the next buy signal, I'm going to try to get in on that stock. Another nice one, Payments Square, was nice on the long side today. Still continues to look pretty decent. Yeah, long candles kind of going sideways here, just dying. You see a lot of, like, on these kind of days, right? If it's LPTE, we have a strong move earlier, and then the stock will pull back maybe to VWAP. That's kind of where you want to buy it. And then it'll kind of die for the rest of the day. And you see it's not really going anywhere. So you really need to get a great price on this kind of stock. Yeah, so Square is looking pretty good. And I'm going to look at my volume volatility scanner. Coin was decent earlier today. Give back some of the gains. DKNG. It's nice. This is a decent move in DKNG today. Decent move. That's certainly tradable. Pull back to VWAP. Here's your support. And then you get you another leg higher. So that is tradable. Talked about Hood. HPQ. Let's look at this. In that range. Not crazy about that. Netflix. Really nice bullish engulf today. Really love that show of strength in the stock. And then holding those gains pretty well. So I do really like Netflix over here. Yeah, this is one that if the market was better, I would love to take it. But again, I just feel like if the market's going to come back, you could probably get a better entry on some of these stocks. So you don't have to rush it. SE, we looked at Square. Yeah, not a lot of stocks in the check boxes. And you can also look at some stocks that were good, but excuse me, but maybe are down today. So let's look at an example. Something like PLTR. All right, so this is a strong stock. You can see it's pulling back over here, testing that 8 EMA. So, right, this stock, it'll be ready to cook in a little bit. So, what would you do? Well, on a shorter term basis, love to get in on a dip. So, just create an alert. Actually, let me just set that alert with this template. And get in over there. So that'll be nice and triggered. So just find these really strong stocks, especially the ones that are maybe down today, and they'll set up for some alerts. Set up for some alerts tomorrow or the next day. Hut looking okay. Shop, still decent. Still holding this level. Yep. So here's a couple of picks. You can see here, we're just holding this level, testing it. If it starts to crack through, it could actually be a nice little short if you're a pro. But what I would do is I would wait for this to kind of reset upwards. So let's look at some of these alerts here. Let's reset that. Got a couple of these lines open on shop. Yep. Yep. Let's see what else is down. Zoom down today. Yeah, Zoom's trading back some of those gains. Let's see here. CRM weak. GS. Actually, GS is pretty decent. GS is pretty decent. FTNT also okay. Let's see what it looks like. That's a pretty big drop intraday. It's kind of strange. GS. Right, you can see it's holding those gains. That buy signal is still open. Yep, and we want to get that longer term trend line breached. So, like what I'm seeing in the stock here, DAL pretty strong, pulling back to the 8 EMA. So this is actually not a bad time to buy, in my opinion. Do I have an alert set on this? I'm gonna set an M5 alert. So this is pretty much what we're gonna do today, right? Just have your list of really strong stocks. If you look at the D1 charts for all of these stocks, they're pretty strong. They are pretty strong. They made strong moves, and we're just looking to get good entry points on those picks. Something like your spot, right? That's holding up pretty well here. Could be a nice weekly at the money. There's Twillo. Twillo's also holding up pretty well. This is one that I might look to buy. Really like Twillo. This is a beautiful move up over here, which tells me that it's very likely to continue. So we got that buy signal, we got the exit signal. Let's look at the alerts here. So this is triggered, so just gonna reset that. So yeah, just kind of resetting alerts. Setting usually these downward sloping trend lines, as well as M5 buy signals. I've been using that and just kind of flipping those every day. And then if you do use a VWAPs here, so if I look at something like Twillo, right, and I look at this on a D1 chart. Interesting. This purple line is the IPO AVWAP, but it's made a pretty strong move. Looks like there's certainly some resistance over here. Well, I'm going to look at an M5 basis for first couple of things here. We're going to draw that IPO AVWAP. I like to make that blue. Then you got a couple of handoffs happening over here. So you get a handoff. And let's make that green. All right, so it's leaning on that, leaning on that. Here's another handoff on this big gap up. That's where I like to draw it. So that holds up pretty well. Handoff, handoff, handoff. And now you see that we get a test, then we actually break through. So now these handoffs are going to get sort of a little more invalidated. And the one that is going to matter the most is from this all-time high, which I'm going to make red. So that is the one that we kind of want to break through. So you can see that we're kind of bouncing between these levels and testing it. And you get this nice AVWAP stack where, it kind of holds on this pullback. And this is not getting tested anytime soon, but on Twilio, it's got to break through over here. So that downward sloping trend line will capture a pretty nice move. And that's usually why these work out pretty well, actually. Stocks usually tend to clear that AVWAP when it breaks that downward sloping trend line. And can actually get over here and flip through these levels. So tells us that the average buyer here, right, again, still flipping, and now they're actually in a loss over here. Average buyer from here is still in profit, so they're buying here. And from the earnings release, they're also quite still in profit. All right. Yeah. So that's kind of another tool you can use that I've been experimenting with, but that's the name of the game. So again, not really going to give any picks today. It's late in the day. There's not really any good earnings time spreads. I don't really want to take any day trades with 90 minutes left. Don't put yourself in a corner. So find those strong stocks, have a list of your top candidates, and then just kind of monitor where you want them, what kind of setups you want. And then you can take them when the market lines up, right? Just put the market first. Think about the probabilities of success and where the market's going to go. Even though I think there's a 60% chance this is going to hold, 65% chance it's going to hold, still 30% chance of going down. That's not the probabilities I quite want to take any aggressive swing longs or swing shorts. So we kind of just have to wait and hold and see if we get through this gap, if we break through the gap over here, and see kind of where asset managers feel that the price is attractive enough for them. All right, so all that to say, no more picks for today. Thank you for watching, everyone, and we'll see if any nice picks set up for tomorrow.